Welcome to the 10 Minute Life Lessons podcast. My name is Jay Clifton Payne. I'm your host for this podcast for quite a long time. And if you've been waiting a while for something new to drop, here it is. We're back. The zombie podcast about 10 Minute Life Lessons is back in your earballs again. And we'll see how long we can take this iteration of it. Different sound, cleaner sound, we hope. Just the audio of me talking to you for about 10 minutes, giving you a life lesson that you can take with you right here, right now. Go with it. And the lesson on today is basically why we're actually back. And the main reason why we're back, because this zombie podcast seems to be picking up a lot of steam, even though we haven't posted regularly in a while and not in a few months for the last time we've actually posted. This has been one of those projects that keeps coming up and down in my quest to add a bit more positivity to the world, the landscape of positivity in audio, in production, in content creation. And even though it does become at some point in time a bit of a labor, a bit of a albatross sometimes, it seems like even when I stop doing it, what I see is people responding to it. I still see lots of downloads coming from this one, the one I don't post to very regularly, as opposed to the other podcasts I do. Some of them are different topics. They're not all personal development, but this one actually keeps getting the most downloads weekly for essentially forever. And I can basically thank the bots, I guess, for that. But because it keeps getting so many downloads, because it keeps getting so much attention, it keeps popping up in my feed because I don't erase the feed, it just seemed like the right time to come back and do this podcast, because there's still plenty of negativity out there in the world and still hopefully room for a little bit more positive to fight that. Now, when it seems like it's 1,000 negatives, one positive, it may seem like it's not worth the effort. And that's basically the actual message for today. This one little podcast with not very vast amount of reach isn't going to solve the world, isn't going to solve the world's problems, at least not going to save the world is what I'm trying to say. But like I said, it keeps getting hits, it keeps getting responses, it keeps growing, oddly enough. And I still get some responses from people out there who don't quite know this is not being done live, not being done on a regular basis. It is meant to be an evergreen type of podcast, so you never really know what we're talking about. Every so often I will drop in a marker of what's going on in real life, and a lot of things are sort of the general thing of the timeline we're dealing with. But for all practical purposes, the 10 Minute Life Lesson podcast is meant to be a 10-minute podcast, more or less, that gives you something to go work on right now. And right now, I want you to work on the thought that you can and you should do a little more extra to stay positive, to push positivity, to be a dealer of hope and positive change. Even if your situation may not allow you to be the biggest arbiter or the biggest cheerleader for hope and positive change. It doesn't really matter if you have a large platform or a very small one, if you have millions and millions of people who listen to you every day, or just a small cadre of people who just sort of begrudgingly listen to you because you're there. It doesn't really matter. You are in a fight for the soul of the world, if you will, and you're not expected to win that fight, but you're expected to put in some effort towards or against it, actually be in the fight. This is one you can't actually sit on the fence because time and situations will keep you off that fence. You're going to every so often say a few things that are either going to suck the life out of everybody or bring life to everybody. And the best way to actually be positive in this war is to be basically focused on what it is you want to say to bring more positivity, as opposed to letting your mind just go blank and just spouting out random things, which in most cases, without much thought and not much progress and not much, seeing what's going on in the world, will probably be something just sort of a grumble or something negative going forward. Now, this does not mean you must be the cheerleader for positivity 24/7. You're not expected to be the bubbles of the Powerpuff Girls in life for every one of your friends, but you are kind of expected to not be the downer when you don't have reasons to be down. If you have reasons to be down, you're also expected not to just bring people down just because you are down, but try to do what you can to alleviate some of that pain you have going on and just kind of get through it. It sucks to say sometimes when you're down, you have to get through it and just try to be happy. But sometimes when you're down and you know that your presence is kind of a downer, you probably need to spend more time alone to kind of get through that thing. And sometimes when you're down, the best thing to do is to get yourself up. So sometimes the fake it till you make it idea of trying to hype yourself up to feel better will help you feel a little better, will help you help other people around you feel a little better. And then everyone together can hype everybody up going forward. It's not magic by any means that you think that just turning your frown upside down and making everybody happy is going to happen. But there is some science behind it, and there is some, practical wisdom, old wives' tale like wisdom about that. When everyone around you is kind of hyped up, you sort of get hyped up. You have to work yourself not to get hyped up. When everybody around you is down and depressed, you will be down and depressed, and work yourself to not be so down and depressed around them. When you are the person who's the trigger, you have to make sure that you're offering up the best vibes possible. This podcast, for example, is a bit of a head scratcher for me because it's one that I was started with an intention. That intention hadn't quite come to fruition, and it's been a frustration to try to make it a priority going forward. However, it does offer a good bit of positivity, about 10 minutes worth a week, and so that should be enough, right? Well, there's a problem with that. The problem is mainly I am a human. I have an ego. I want my ego stroked as much as possible. And I want to think that I'm making a positive impact to the nth degree, 10 times and 100 times Xing my positive impact on the world. The fact that I exist and I step out into the main stage means everyone does a little bit better. Now, I also say that a lot with me, just my general work life in general, that me being there makes things better. And people say that as well. Me being there as an influence to the positive makes things go. Me being there as a person who's knowledgeable and can help fill the gaps makes things go. Me being there makes things better in a work situation. But in a positivity situation, sometimes not so much. The main reason why I got deeper into personal development personally was because I wanted to get better with my own personal development, better with my own mindset, better with my own issues, my own depression, my own setbacks, and honestly could not see the point in paying tens of thousands of dollars to people who are basically regurgitating the same thing. So I'm offering up the same regurgitated things at a discounted price, if you will. And that didn't take off because people have a tendency to think the overpricing of things is what makes it work and not the fact that they have to actually do some work, which has been the dilemma I've been pushing for quite some time in the 10-minute life coach, 10-minute life lessons, general positivity and personal development going forward. This is not meant to be a gripe and complaint about that one. This is meant to be a relaunch, a rethinking, a repushing of the 10-minute life lesson, and a reminder that the big lesson that you need to know about your life is that, unfortunately, it could be worse. And this is not to belittle anyone whose life is really bad. But in most cases, if you're listening to a podcast like this one and listen to this one in general, you've got power, you've got the ability to open up an app and listen to this thing. So your life can't be all that bad. You have the freedom to listen to this and not be forced to some other propaganda. So your life can't be all that bad. Whatever you're suffering through right now, and trust me, I am not going to make light of anyone's suffering, anyone's depression, anyone's situation, is a situation that can probably be overcome with some help, and your help can probably help other people overcome a similar situation. Them knowing that you're going through something and still being positive, still keeping on the up and up, can help them as well. And oddly enough, sometimes the best way to literally help yourself is to literally help other people through their struggles. You'll find in helping them, they feel better, you feel better about helping them, and it goes forward in that way. That little boost of what you can give to them helps you boost yourself in the process and may offer up some answers to what you're going through as you're helping other people with their answers. Sometimes it works that way. So with that, as we approach the 10-minute mark, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. As you know, it's not exactly 10 minutes, but it's basically in under 10 minutes, you get the lesson. And so lessons up, there you go. We're going to start doing this a little bit differently, more free form, more like this. We're not worried about the songs and music. We're not worried about selling anything at the moment, although your support to keep this thing going would help. One reason why it keeps getting cut off, if you will, canceled and rescheduled is because it takes a little effort. If you deem this conversation that we're having, if you deem this content I'm creating worthy of some support, you can help me out by going to buymeacoffee.com patreon.com/jclevelandpayne and buy me a coffee, either a one-time coffee as a donation or a extreme monthly donation going a long way. That's one of the easiest way to do that. Stop by the website, jclevelandpayne.net, as I offer up daily bits of, I like to think, pretty good wisdom. And look out for information for other podcasts and other newsletters, other creative things I do as a part of my larger More Better Media LLC family. Thank you so much for being a part of this, whether you've been a long-time listener or you just stumbled upon this last week. Next week, we're going to do our best to create a trend of 2 weeks of this and another great episode of the 10-Minute Life Lesson podcast.